Okay, hello, introduce yourself.
I'm Rosalie Morillo.
That's my teacher, for those who don't know.
I teach designing media for Global World. It's actually my second year teaching it, but my first year in person. And I didn't even teach it a full year last year. So basically this class is just wrapped around teaching students how to market and develop campaigns for political campaigns, social justice campaigns, or any type of marketing campaign. So like if you guys wanted to create a business, so I teach you how to do that. Mind you, I have no like marketing degree, but I am an English teacher, so I understand narratives, and I understand that behind every market there's a story, and people buy stories, and people love stories, which is why we're
really
here
do.
talking about stories. So this is why you're here, right? With this really awesome campaign.
Yeah,
Very excited
we had this idea. Well, at first I had no idea what I wanted to do, and then we had a conversation.
Ah, conversation.
Yeah. Shout out Conversations of Consequence, of course. So we had this conversation about my personality, and you just so happen to have this idea bottled up, but I'm trying to do the idea justice in a sense, and I hope I'm doing a good job.
I think you're doing a great job so far. I think your first interview was very successful and getting a lot of great feedback, so I'm very happy about that.
Thank you to everybody.
For real.
I was really surprised. It hit it's at like 180 views right now, which is crazy.
That's
like,
amazing.
It really
I think
is.
it's after watching it, I realized that you have. I think that's why people love you. You have like a great energy and feel, and I think people generally think and feel like you want to hear them out and know their stories. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody has a story. So you're giving them that chance to tell about themselves that maybe most people don't see every day. So with that, I think it's going to be a very successful thing, especially after the pandemic where people were so disconnected. You're allowing them to reconnect and think about meaningful things.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like there are a lot of people that complain about Amboy. I used to be one of those people, but we have a lot of character. Whether you believe it or not, we do, and it shows with Tristan. Like people just see him as like this goofy kid most of the time. I love my guy to death, but as you saw in the interview, he has a lot bottled up, and like he's a really interesting dude. And
he's very introspective. Like he
yeah.
has deep thoughts.
Like he's aware. But go on with your thought.
No. He definitely has deep thoughts that I think when you see him right away, you assume that he's just like this popular kid that doesn't really have, dreams or, deeper, I guess, ideas about what he wants to do. I know food is really big for him, and the fact that he spoke about wanting to cook for his mom is like that runs deep in his like history. So I thought it was really cool to see that, and when people see the interview, sorry, my throat's all jacked up today. When the people see the interview, they're like, wow, I didn't know that about him. And I think that's the main goal for this, for people to see just Amboy kids, or even people from Amboy, or just anyone in general, that there's more to us like than what meets the eye, right? So.
Going back to that idea, like you said, he's like this popular kid, and like, again, as I said, like a goofy kid, but like, and that's for a lot of people, by the way. Like a lot of people are just popular, and like you'd think, oh, this kid doesn't think about this and that, but they think about the same things you do, and that's not really like, nobody really knows that or gets that, and that's why I'm like doing this whole thing, because I like the idea of having conversation, because it's such a rare art form these days. And it's crazy to say that, because conversation is had every day, but now it's a lost art.
Right. And it's not even just about, like you said, we have conversations every day, but it's like, what are the qualities of our conversations? The reason why I came up with this idea, I honestly don't remember I feel like I had this conversation with my husband, and I talked to him last night. I was like, do you remember when we talked about conversation and consequence? He was like, I don't really remember. But it sounds like a conversation we did have because we're super pretentious. But just that I remember when I was teaching, I've been here for a long time. So I remember having this conversation with my class of 2015 in English. And I think I was teaching Fahrenheit 451 at that point, right? Because it was a sophomore class. And we talked about conversations of consequence. Like, how many of our conversations actually matter? How many conversations that when you leave after having that conversation, you've learned something, or you learn something about the other person, or you have a deeper thought, right? Where you're considering something a little bit more than what you did previously. Those conversations shape who we are, and it develops our relationships with other people and unify us. I think once we start having more of those conversations, we can learn to develop a deeper love for each other. And I think it would correct a lot of the negative stereotypes that we have here, but also the disconnect, right? It's easy to be mean and hateful towards people when you don't know them.
Yeah.
Right? But then when you start learning about their stories, and when you start learning about their background and their struggles, you're like, dang. Like, I feel that too. I connect. I like that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the thought process. So I remember asking my students, if we were to put a percentage, how many conversations of consequence do you have throughout the day? And I remember a lot of them saying, like, maybe none or 10%.
Yeah.
You know, most of the conversations are about, like, drama or what clothes you're wearing, or what music you listen to, which music can be a thoughtful conversation, but is it like, oh, that music is hot, or like, it sucks, and that's it. You don't talk about why it sucks, or like why you like it, how it makes you feel, why does it connect to you. It's very shallow thinking, and it doesn't really bring out who you are as a person if you're not really sharing your opinions and having deep discussions. I'm talking a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah, good.
So that's where it came from, and I think I'm very much like you, where when I was in high school, I love people.
Yeah.
I like digging into, like, okay, so what makes you tick?
Exactly.
You know, that's why I shared this with you, because I feel like you would do it justice, because you're very much like me. Based on when you and I first started talking, you would ask me a gajillion questions. You like spammed my the Morillo account, the Morillo Minions account, asking me all these questions, and I have no problem answering them, because, you know, I think conversations are important.
Yeah.
So I knew that you would be the best person to be able to launch this and do it justice. So.
My problem with the conversation today is it's just a lot of surface level thinking, and like when we were having the conversation, you brought up Fahrenheit 451, and you picked out the most beautiful piece in the whole book, I think, because I really need to read it. Yeah,
Yes,
it looks like a dope book. So they brought up superficial conversations, and like, I think it was like cars, clothes, and swimming pools,
Right.
and that's literally all people talk about nowadays, and it gets repetitive and repetitive and repetitive. So, yeah, there's that.
So, I mean, that book, I don't know how often we teach that anymore, but I remember combing through that book so many times. It's probably one of my favorite books. And there's a character named Clarice, who she's very different from everyone else in that world. You know, it's a very dystopian society. Nobody reads. No one thinks very deeply. Everything's very superficial. People wear headphones. They call them seashells, but the way they describe them look like AirPods, right?
I just want to interject real quick.
Yeah.
This book was made in the 50s.
Yeah, in the 50s. I think it was
Crazy.
a response to everybody kind of, I mean, I don't want like my English teachers like to harsh. They were like, no, you're wrong. But I'm pretty sure it was in the 50s, and just like this whole, it reminded me, like you said, Pleasantville. You saw that show, Pleasantville. Yeah. And I think it's just the idea that everybody to have this perfect world. A lot of things were happening at the time, and people just mask, right? Like the truth for happiness and stuff like that. So I think removing reading and literature and deep conversations caused like a peace. It's very similar to 1984, which is another book that I would highly recommend. So they just kind of went about their life, and Montag is the main character. He's a fireman, so he actually creates fires as opposed to fighting them.
Yeah.
And whenever there's any kind of inkling of like books being around, he's called and he has to set fire to the house, right? Because they don't want people reading deeply or thinking deeply. And I feel like in a sense we're kind of there. Ray Bradbury says, you don't have to, I'm paraphrasing, you don't have to ruin a generation by burning books. You just got to get them to stop reading them. And I think that's where we are. No one reads anymore, right? And if people don't read, they don't expose themselves to, deeper thoughts and ideas. I think literature that's what makes it so important, because it makes you think about things that you wouldn't usually think about. It's almost having a conversation with the book, with the author, R.I.P. Ray Bradbury. But Clarice stands out, and Montag notices her. She's like a young girl, and he's like this older man, and she stops and smells the flowers. And I remember even giving an assignment to my son. It's like, hey, when you walk home from school, what are the flowers that you see? Like, do you pay attention to them? Right now, because it's around springtime, like daffodils are coming up, right? They're like the little yellow flowers. And daffodils always get me, like, because when I'm coming to school, there's like on 440, you don't drive yet, so you probably don't know. On my way to school, it's 440. It's the highway, and everything is so ugly, right? Because it's a freaking highway, right? But right before I drive up to go to come to school, and I drive into Amboy from 440, there are these groups, like huge groups of daffodils, just randomly there. And it's been there every single year. There's just like these big groups of daffodils, and I'm just like, they're just growing in such an ugly place. And how beautiful is that idea, right? Just
the beauty and the madness.
Right, they just popping out of anywhere. They don't last very long, but it makes me smile because they don't grow individually. They grow all together. And I think about, like, I might be cheesy, but like metaphorically, like, even just like Amboy's kind of like that. People want to talk about how like it's all ugly and, jacked up or whatever, but like we are a big group
and we could change that.
Beautiful people, right? And I think once we kind of unify and realize our own beauty, I think we'll thrive more. You get what I'm saying? So, but yeah, so with Clarice, Montag really gets intrigued by her, and she says that she's different from her peers. I wonder if you feel that way, like if you're so different.
All the time. Not as a cocky thing, but like just in general.
Yeah, like you look around and you want more, right? In the conversations, you want to kind of get to know people more. And I feel like Clarice says that she's considered antisocial because she doesn't want to do what other kids want to do, which is very superficial. They said like they break stuff, like destruct things and stuff, and they talk about education too, and how like they funnel information down your throat, and watch movies all day. And Montag is just so impacted by the conversation he had with her that it actually changes who he is. She's a catalyst to this big change that he goes through, where he ends up like hating his wife or like trying to change her because he realizes his marriage they have no conversation. They don't know each other. She has these headphones on all day and doesn't even realize, and just watch TV all day. And even Corey says, like, why do we watch TV with each other? That's antisocial. You sit next to each other, watch a screen, and don't talk. Or like going to the movies, like, unless you talk about the movie after. But anyway, so yeah, she was a catalyst. That conversation that he had with her, it was a catalyst to the change of who he was to who he was meant to be. And I think that's what this should be, like where you have people reflect. How often do people reflect?
Rarely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, what I wanted to know for you is like, how has this been for you? Like, doing this, you launched your first interview yesterday, and it did really well. Do you feel like this is exactly what you were meant to do right now? And is this changing? Are you Montag and I'm Clarice? Like,
I really might be.
Clarice dies, by the way. Spoiler.
Don't say it out loud.
I think she does. Actually, I think it's inferred, but go ahead.
She doesn't. So I was genuinely shocked yesterday, and I had so many people reaching out to me. Thank you all, like, from the bottom of my heart. Like, it was so genuine, and like, I got a lot of responses. Everybody was posting the story. Everybody was like, go tune in. And I was just like so grateful, and like, this is Amboy. Like, these are my peers, and like, it was just such a dope experience. And I do feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing at the moment. Like, I usually like, I'm in and out of the loop with school, but like right now I'm so locked in, and like it's helping. This
like
is
April.
helping. In April, senioritis.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you're getting more into school, but I wonder why. So why? Why now?
Time's running out. That's why.
That's
like,
why?
Yeah, like I'm on a limit. Like, why not do the most while I can? The most I can while I'm here.
Is it really that?
That's part of it. It's a big part of it.
What makes it different now that you want to do this assignment? What is about this that you're locked in? Is it really about like time frame and graduating? Because I feel like it's different. This is different for you.
Yeah,
than like being locked in and doing an essay.
Yeah, I remember recalling back to the Tristan interview. We just finished. It was really dope. He said this one thing that was hilarious. Go check it out. But after that, Yakaira, she was like, "Oh my God, y'all made me tear up," and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, but right then and there, that's when I knew I had to do this and I should keep doing it because like it's so impactful. I was like, "That's the one right there."
I think we just want to be heard, and I think the students want to be heard, especially after the 2 years of just being in the house, not having any like contact with people. It really has hurt our relationships, and I think there's a lot of stress for teachers and students. The education system right now is in like this deep crisis with the mass exodus of teachers, and I think it's because we want something more. We want something more meaningful, and I think that's why you're locked in, because this is meaningful to you. It's like touching your heart. And what's the point of having this if it's not connected with this? You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
if you don't have, if your knowledge is not connected to your heart, your feet don't move, and you're not motivated.
You sound like Rocky.
Don't hate me, but I've never seen a Rocky movie.
We got that.
Sorry. But I think that's what needs to change with education, and I think that's why kids are so frustrated, and that's why teachers are so frustrated, because there's really no heart. We're doing things just to freaking do them.
Things.
And doing it for so long is just emotionally draining, and that's why teachers are leaving, and that's why kids aren't learning. It's like Clarice said, we're just being told to funnel information down students' throats, but we're not
Actually
making it
learning.
meaningful, and that's why you're not learning. And that's why we don't want to teach anymore.
Wow. Brains everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I had one last thing to say. It was, people that
I'm trying to get him to stop looking into the camera like this.
People, they like smiles more than they know. Like we talked about before all this, we talked about doing like a smile campaign where.
Yeah, that was your initial idea.
Yeah.
Like, pictures of people with smiles because of the masks. and
But
stuff.
this is way better because like I'm doing both. I'm getting smiles, I'm getting reactions, I'm getting everything, and it's all genuine again. And this is really good because COVID, everybody was on the phone, on the computer, all through screens and electronic devices. Nobody's really going out. But now you see everybody's faces, you see their smiles, you see the genuine happiness, and it makes me happy. And I love everybody that I know.
Well, I think people really can see that about you. You definitely wear your heart on your sleeve, 100%, and that's not a bad thing, you know. And I really hope that you continue doing this even after high school. I mean, you won't have this really cool studio, but I mean, wherever you plan on going, maybe, you know, college or something like wherever. I don't know. There's a way to do it. Even if you just like throw some paper up and like get a really good phone. Sorry for this quality, but who knows? Everything takes an investment. But I think this could really be something big. And even if you start with people from Amboy and then you branch out for everybody that you meet, right? That seems interesting to you. Like the conversations you want to always have to just remind people that their lives and their stories are important, right? And you're gonna meet so many cool people that way. And I know that's like, yes, good, like that. I know that.
Finally.
I'm like, yes, I love people. So, you know, I'm happy that you took this. And I'm happy to give it to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just, you know, if it becomes like super famous, you know, just like.
All you.
No, not all me. Cause
we.
But I help, you know.
I just took the idea and ran with it.
Give me a shout out. Just give me a shout out. Just a little bit. Like,
a little shout out, yeah.
So, yeah. But thank you for interviewing with me.
Thank you for trusting me.
I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you too, believe it or not. Yeah. Thank you for coming on the interview.
Of course, bro. Firm handshake right there.
Okay, we're good.
Good. Where are the bloopers, though?
That was the blooper.